Hello, this is Michael Wojcik with a Rochester City Council update for June 6, 2016. For those of you that were deeply concerned because I was running for re-election that I might perhaps start pandering to some of the special interests in the community to perhaps try to win them over to my side, I want you to rest assured. Watch the video from tonight's meeting and you will see that pandering is still not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in representing the people in the neighborhoods of Rochester, not the special interests of Rochester. And most people are okay with that, except for the special interests. Oh, did I miss Nick Campion today? I could have really used his common sense a few times out there, but really glad that we have him on the council. I was so unconcerned with pandering today that I just decided I was going to skip the dinner meeting and go coach my daughter's baseball team. In addition to my other responsibilities, the business that I run and my teaching duties and the city council stuff, I am now the head coach of the second grade Bamber Valley baseball team. Huge responsibility for which I'm not qualified for, but thoroughly enjoyed that. So if you were wondering why I was at the city council meeting with a t-shirt and a baseball cap on, well, there you go. The dinner meeting's topic came up a little bit. I strongly agree with Barry Skolnick that we should not be hosting these things in locations where the public really can't hear what's going on or see what's going on or even access it. I'm very frustrated next month that we're going to be hosting our private dinner meeting at the country club. I am going to skip it anyways because I'm coaching baseball again, but I made the point to the mayor that we can't have these things in places that are not accessible by transit. I completely understand how not a lot of people attend these meetings, but to take away the option of people who can't drive from attending public meetings really disappoints me, and that's although you could argue we're doing that by having our meetings at night too. But I just think it sets a bad precedent. So, and I think the mayor understands, and I don't think it'll happen again. And I have brought this up before, but it seems like you got to raise a stink before anything gets done. Congratulations to Angela Gupta, an amazing woman from the historic Southwest neighborhood, and she is going to be the next park board person for Ward 2. She's going to bring some incredible skills, talent, passion, and energy to that board. 4 really good applicants, and I think any of the 4 would have been very good, and all 4 of them were underrepresented in one way or another, so that's just fantastic. Part of the reason why I kind of think that this will probably be my last term running for the city council is just that there are so many incredibly talented people like Angela that someday should step in and be the city council member, and last thing we need is another old white man on the city council, right? RPU charges, RPU changes. We were building the West Side Energy Station, originally estimated to be about $75 million for the energy production facility. We've now trimmed about $11 million off of that, so nice work by the, I'd like to say the board of directors because I'm on the board of directors, but really staff is doing an amazing job. Great job by them to keep finding things, and frankly the exchange rate's helping quite a bit too, so Greece, thank you very much. Real simple thing, the city council did a real positive thing. We had a person, older individual, not a lot of money, who needed a tree removed, and it was the city had to do it, and it was his responsibility, so we would charge him. We have a policy in situations like this where we can just defer the assessment, and at some point, if he sells the home, or should he pass away and the estate has or something, we can address the fees when the property changes hands. So it's a deferment, and it's kind of a good common sense thing and a good thing we do for our citizens. In the open comment period, we had a group from Elton Hills Drive who were upset that they might have right-in, right-out access, despite the fact that this is a city and that happens in cities all the time. And what's particularly frustrating is they hired Mark Utz, who sent us a letter, oh, you can't do this, it's an unconstitutional taking, and he doesn't have a shred of legal standing to fall back on. The reality is the Supreme Court's quite clear in the state of Minnesota that we do have to provide businesses reasonable access, and right-in, right-out is more than reasonable. What was particularly frustrating is he brought this half map where he wasn't even showing where the roads were actually in the entire area, and saying, if you're coming up North Broadway, you got to turn left here, you got to go down to the end of the meeting, you got to do a U-turn in this little area right here and come back and get in. Yeah. Or you could just do what people are doing today and turn in right before you get to Elton Hills Drive and come up the road there. Now that's a private road, but skip ahead to later in the meeting. That shopping center was looking for some agreements with us. I said, why don't we take the time to mitigate some of the changes that are going to be happening on Elton Hills Drive, and why don't we get some private cross-access agreements so that folks can officially access the properties from there, since they're unofficially already doing it anyway. So, I hope the parties in there continue to work with the city. I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking with Public Works, but public safety is number one. And the bottom line is however we design Elton Hills Drive should be safe for pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, and automobiles. And we have some council members that are willing to turn a blind eye and ignore the recommendations from our professional engineering staff in that regard. And I'm saying that I'm flexible to what the solution could be, but I do not accept the fact that folks like Mark Hickey think they can step in and overrule competent engineers with their complete lack of education themselves. We need to knock that crap off. Food trucks got their second reading today. So as soon as that's published, we officially can have food trucks in the city of Rochester. Granted, we have the highest fees in the state of Minnesota, so I don't think we'll be seeing a whole lot of food trucks. Ton of development going on. That's been the story of Rochester for some time now, but wow, is there a lot of development going on. We had a whole bunch of public hearings on new developments that are coming into play. Some really cool stuff. We also had the official preliminary development agreement with the Bloom Properties on that $200 million downtown development, which, oh, by the way, twice in the last 8 years of my time on the city council, the Rochester City Council almost destroyed that opportunity to have a $200 million development. So you might not think it's a big deal that by a 4-3 vote, folks like myself stand up and stop that stupid Associated Bank proposal that was going in, but I tell you what, that 4-3 vote is going to open up another awesome development just like the one we did here. Rochester, we need to quit selling ourselves short and pandering to special interests and do more for the community. We've got an amazing potential development there, and there's a lot still work to be done on it, but originally, instead of having this $200 million waterfront activation development, we were talking about having another parking ramp on the river, and you know what? There were 3 city council members who were just fine with that. So you better believe elections matter. Urban design standards discussed in the committee meeting, absolutely fantastic. I did a little bit on my blog on it. My only thought in looking at these guidelines is please, 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 Rochester, don't screw this up. We had some very good urban village design guidelines that staff never bothered implementing or giving any teeth to. We have got to implement these things, give them teeth. It talks about roadway design, it talks about building design, it talks about district design. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. Hopefully we get it implemented, we give it some teeth, but this is what's been missing from planning and zoning for a long time, and this is going to be crystal clear. If you want to do something in the core of the city and you're expecting anything from the city at all, you better follow some stuff like this. Also had a thing that we tabled at the last meeting for striping, and the interesting thing about the striping was that a couple of them I had issues with. I went and talked with Public Works, and ultimately there were 2 roads that we're going to consider what we're going to do with in the future. One of them is Elton Hills Drive, and the other is 36th Avenue in the Country Club Manor area. The real frustrating thing with this is that we were supposed to be looking at this anyway, and it just kind of slipped through Public Works. So we're just going to take it back, think about it, and for the most part, everyone was fine with that, except the viciously anti-bike ped people that we have on the city council. Basically, the old white guys who are doing everything they can possibly do to make Rochester not attractive to millennials, younger people, immigrants, minorities, people that don't have the amount of money that they have. So I'm glad that the good guys once again won this one, and again, local elections matter, and we have some interesting concepts coming out for both those areas. Stuff that we've never seen before in Rochester, but my goal is that still every person in Rochester should have safe biking, walking, transit, and or automobile from where they're at, and I believe we can accomplish that in both of these places. We did kill breed-specific legislation, which was so ridiculous that we were even discussing it in the first place. We had somebody who came and did a ridiculous presentation that violated all of our rules in the open comment period. But because he's well connected, the rules don't apply to him. And so we jumped on it. And here's the fascinating part. What we did at that meeting, even though it wasn't on the agenda, even though it just came up that night, is we directed staff to go off and write a breed-specific ordinance, understanding full well that breed-specific legislation is not legal in Minnesota, but we're going to find a loophole. Well, the other shoe dropped tonight. Folks came and talked about the actual facts, what the state law is about how our loophole just isn't going to cover it. And just the fact that dog attacks are serious, but breed-specific legislation is neither effective nor, frankly, fair to owners of certain breeds or mixed breed animals. And we're going to continue looking at dog safety, but I did introduce a resolution which basically said staff is not allowed to work on any breed-specific legislation until directed to by a majority of the city council. And everyone was happy with that except for Mark Hickey again. And here's the part that is just priceless. And you can watch the video. It's going to be great. He brought up again, he has this thing about, you can't bring up new stuff in other business. That's just not right. Well, first of all, that's a Hickey rule. It's not an actual rule that exists anywhere in reality. Anyone who's ever gone to any sort of a local government training course would know this. But the bigger kicker is they kicked off this whole stupid thing by doing it under other business or when it was brought up at a meeting. And now he's mad at me for doing the exact same thing to stop the madness. Well, everyone else, after we talked about it, was fine with, okay, let's continue looking at the dog attack issues, but let's not do it in a breed-specific kind of way, except, of course, for him. But 5-1 vote, I'll take it. I'm glad we killed the stupid breed-specific legislation. We had an interesting topic on a billboard, and the people behind it must have been really well connected or something like that, because it was just the materials in our packet. It was open and shut, and basically Fairway Advertising, they've got a building and they want to put a billboard out there. I mean, that's what they do. They're the billboard company, and not necessarily so much of an issue with that, but they're in a special district, and in a special district you have to have things explicitly laid out that you can do it. And in this place, it was just absolutely crystal clear that they could not have a billboard in there. And my God, it was like 10 or 15 minutes of, of Randy trying to find some loophole or some way of getting them to have a billboard in this special district area. And finally, I brought up, do you folks know what Occam's razor is? And apparently, this is something that I've heard of, but they haven't heard of. And basically, what it is, if you have different hypotheses, the simplest one, the one that requires less assumptions, is probably right. And he was trying to stretch this thing out. And this happens a lot on the city council. And it's not a big deal, but it was just open and close. It's not that they can't have a billboard there, but they have to go through the proper process to do it. And they hadn't done that yet. But after I said that, Staver kind of had a meltdown. He doesn't usually handle himself like that. He's usually a little bit more composed. But, the bottom line is, you can watch the video and judge yourself and see if he's, trying to figure out some sort of loophole to deliver this billboard, and I don't know who it was that, he was trying to do this for, but I think it's kind of ridiculous that, to his credit, I mean, when we finally shut down all these avenues, I mean, it wasn't like he was going to, vote against it anyway, but, it was just a little bit unusual. I was a little bit taken back by it, so. But hey, that's passion's all right. I got no issue with that. Lastly, one of my real concerns, after hearing, hearing Hickey's inability to discuss some of these things that were coming up on the fly, and this viciously anti bike and pedestrian mentality that he takes, and the guy is not supportive really much of anything in terms of bike ped transit. These issues that we've been talking about for months, he doesn't want to talk about. As best I can tell, he's a climate denier, and yet this is the guy who's representing us on DMC right now. And this was kind of a out of nowhere Staver special. We didn't know it was coming. We had no idea that Rusko was going off DMC and Hickey was going on there. But DMC is all about building an inviting, walkable, bikeable, attractive to young people downtown. And here we have the person representing the city council on there is just viciously anti all those things. And we can't do that. So my belief is that once Mark Bilderback retires, we need to replace our council representative on the DMC and put Bilderback on there. He's done a lot more continuing education. And all the things, the issues that Mark Hickey has, they're things that can be solved with continuing education, but he prides himself in not going to conferences and not getting this continuing education. So, and even the DMC, some of the DMC staffers I talked to, where you're talking about, investing in your skills is probably not a good thing for elected officials. So I think this is a real problem, and I hope that when Mr. Bilderback retires from Mayo, that he's willing to consider being on the DMCC board, because we need somebody who actually cares about these bike ped transit issues, that cares about some of these energy issues to represent the what the intent of DMC is. Fortunately for us, some of the state level people are really carrying the water and doing the good work. I mean, RT's been amazing. Randy's been pretty cool. Tina Flynn Smith is doing a nice job. I mean, but we're not getting much out of our council representative right now. I mean, how do you build a bicycle friendly, pedestrian friendly DMC with representatives on there who hates those things, who wants no part of those things? We've got to knock that off. So I'm hoping Bilderback will step in and help address this issue, because it is an issue. And it's up to Bilderback whether or not he's willing to do it. I'm going to ask him if he's willing to do it, and if he is, I'm going to try and skip 4 votes to switch out that representation. Because frankly, the DMC, the people of Rochester, deserve a hell of a lot better than they're getting right now. So again, if any of you thought I was in the business of pandering, I guess that pretty much settles that one, huh? Thanks for watching. A lot of good stuff's going on. I appreciate the support, and I'm going to keep doing my best to stand up for the people of Rochester and not the special interests of Rochester.